पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। Hari Om. So, my dear friends, we continue in our journey of reading and understanding the commentary on the Isha Upanishad by Sri Aurobindo, verses 17 and 18. Today we'll read the section, the immortal life principle. The immortal life principle, and if we have the time, then we may continue into will and memory.
Can you just repeat that line once again? मुझे वो इतना clear नहीं हुआ था. This Agni Vaishnavara का Vaishnavanara वाला line. Concealed and hard to seize in the workings of this world. That sentence is actually I'm not very clear on.
This whole sentence, okay?
No, because he contains in himself all the gods and all the worlds. So Agni contains in himself.
Because we must always remember when we think of Agni as the spark within. And we forget that it is Purna. It is the same as the supermind. It is the same as Surya. The minute we are able to bring that link together again, then whatever is contained in Surya is contained in Agni. Got it?
Okay.
In a fire, whatever is the potentiality of that fire, the same potentiality is there in each spark. So similarly, whatever is the potentiality of Surya, the supermind, that same potentiality exists in the Agni, in that spark, in the Kratu. Have you understood, Sarita?
Finally fulfills the Godhead. And what does it mean by finally fulfills the Godhead?
I'll have
the
to
immortality?
Read it. I'll have to read it. Let me read the sentence.
Yeah.
Concealed and hard to seize in the workings of this world. What is concealed and hard to seize? The immortal in the mortals, Agni. Right? It is concealed. Are we able to see it? Hardly 1 in 100 million is able to actually get darshan of the Agni. Concealed and hard to seize in the workings of this world. Why? Because they are all falsified by desire and egoism. All the workings of this world are falsified by desire and egoism. He uses them, man, uses them to transcend them and emerges as the universal in man, or universal, I think here means Agni. He uses them he is described as the immortal immortals, the leader of the journey, the divine horse that bears us on the road, the son of wickedness, who himself knows and is the straightness and the truth. Concealed and hard to seize in the workings of this world, because they are all falsified by desire and egoism. He, means Agni, uses all the workings of this world to transcend the workings of this world and emerges as the universal in man, or universal power, Agni Vaishvanara, who contains in himself all the gods and all the worlds, upholds all the universal workings, and finally fulfills the Godhead, the immortality. So, even when we are inconscient, even when we are subconscious, even when we are unconscious, and we are walking around in the world the way we work with desire and ego, the Agni is working through us. As and when the Agni starts emerging and we start growing as human beings with the help of Agni, with the push of Agni, with the aspiration of Agni, then slowly and steadily man becomes much larger than himself, and with the help of Agni, of course, and all the potentialities that we have within us are actually the different gods. Who is Indra? Indra is the god of the mind. So when we connect with Agni, then the same Agni grows and the mind becomes larger, it becomes vaster. And Indra is manifested through the mind. So the different potentialities that we have, actually their fullness, when they reach their fullness, they are able to manifest the gods. And that is what they are saying. Finally, Agni reaches the state of the cosmic in man, or the universal power. And when we become cosmic, that is called Agni Vaishvanara, who contains all the gods and all the personalities of the divine in the seven worlds. At this stage, Agni is man, in man actually reaches the fulfillment for which it was originally put into the inconscient. And it supports man through man's growth till man starts becoming larger than himself and man becomes cosmic until he becomes even greater than the cosmos. And all the gods, what did we say? Who are the gods? Gods with a small g. The gods are the divine's potentialities, right? Remember? So all those potentialities are hidden in Surya.
So,
And all this,
Anjali, aren't they personalities?
what is
God's
a personality?
personality. Are they
What is a,
personalities or potentialities?
it's the same thing.
It's the same thing. Acha, okay.
Potentialities or personalities is the same thing.
Okay.
There are different potentialities. Speed is a potentiality. You can call it a personality. Then the light of the mind, the vastness of the mind, that's a potentiality of Indra or a personality of the divine. Right? Speed is a potentiality of the divine, a personality of the Maruts. Right? To be able to create is a potentiality of Brahman, the personality of the divine himself, Brahma. Right? So all these, yeah.
I'm a little confused. Haven't you been saying that they are just personalities of God and we are the ones who have the complete potentiality? So in fact, they envy the humans because we have the complete potentiality, whereas they do not have the potentiality. They have just one aspect of his personality.
Absolutely. So you are not confused at all. So they have, Indra has only one personality.
Huh.
But you have Indra in you, you have Maruts in you have Brahma in you have Vishnu in you have Shiva in you have Aryaman, Bhaga, Varuna, you have all these personalities in you. How do you have them? Because Surya has all of them and Surya has become all these sparks, the Agni. So Agni is Purnamada, Purnamidam. Agni is complete, it's Purna. So all the potentialities of God are in Agni. And who are you? Who are you? Who should we be identified with? We should be identified with that portion of us which has been, which is, and which will be. So who am I? I am this Agni. So all these personalities, all these potentialities are as much my potentiality.
So that means, Anjali, Agni is the God with capital G. That means, because as you say, Agni has
Yes.
all the potentialities.
Yes.
So he's this. Okay.
We are chanting the mantra every day. Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate. That Agni is Purna. It has the same potentiality as Surya, as God himself. All the potentialities are within us. In God, they are in full bloom. In us, they are hidden in a seed form. And as we become conscious of each potentiality, each personality, and we work on that potentiality, and we invite Agni to grow that potentiality in us, that potentiality starts growing within us. And we can go to that particular God. If speed is my problem, I go to Maruts. I go to Sri Hanumanji. And we say, I am very slow in whatever work I do. You have speed. You are the God of speed. You bring this potentiality forward in my being. And I work on it. And I pray to that particular God. And that potentiality starts getting sharpened in me. Similarly, I can pray to Varuna. that I'm very limited. I've become very, very small and petty in my thoughts. Varuna, please help me to become vast. And then I let Varuna grow in me. Because all these gods can grow in us. That's a beauty that Sri Aurobindo has written so beautifully in Secret of the Vedas. All these gods have been little. Sri Aurobindo has described these gods and told us about them. Yes, Chiti, you were saying something?
Yeah, there is something called Kundalini Kriya, you know.
So
I'm sure everybody would be knowing it. And they say by this kriya, which is a particular kind of a process, a breathing process, through which, if you do it the particular way, through which you could active your pineal glands, you know, which are in the brain. So when those glands get activated, so then it is easier to connect yourself with the higher supreme, you know. You get what you call, जैसे वो antennas खड़े हो जाते हैं ना, so which you can get those connected with those frequencies of the universe, higher frequencies of the universe. What do you have to say about it?
Okay, so Kundalini has been spoken about by Sri Aurobindo. He said it is one of the most dangerous kriyas that one can ever enter into, because Kundalini does not start from here.
It starts from the bottom, from the mool.
So So when we awaken the Kundalini, the Mooladhar, the base chakra.
Mooladhar, yeah.
When we try to awaken that, because in Kundalini you have to start from there. Then one becomes open to all the negativities and a lot of negativity of the entire universe. It is the most dangerous thing to do. And there are people who have become mad or have gone into the wrong habits, and some have even lost their lives. So Sri Aurobindo always talked that we should, if at all we want to do this awakening of the 7 chakras, it should always begin from the 1,000 petals.
1,000 petals. Okay.
It should start from
Sahasra
the top.
chakra.
Sahasrar. When it should start from the Sahasrar, because once the Sahasrar opens, you put yourself into the hands of the divine. The divine enters into you and then takes one chakra at a time and works on that chakra and goes downward. So that is the right process. And Kundalini is a very dangerous process. And one should not be chanting the Bij mantras of these chakras bottom to top. Never. It is a very, very risky process.
We must, because these scientists are talking about these, you know, things.
Scientists will talk, everybody will talk. So,
okay, let's get started. Sorry to, but good, you explained me. Good, thank you.
Sarita, so you've understood that the gods are within us as potentialities. Each god is a personality of the divine who is multifaceted. And these gods can be invoked. And when they are invoked, they are invited into our being. That portion of yours, which is related to that particular god, we invite that god to make that portion of me blossom. Again, I repeat that, for instance, if we invite Indra, we invite him because he is the god of mind. And we ask him to illuminate the mind and bring it to the higher level. Remember that colloquy between Indra and Agastya. So Indra and Agastya Rishi was going very speedily towards the divine. And he was moving towards the divine in a great speed, and Indra tried to block him. So when Indra tried to block him, Agastya said, "Why are you blocking me? I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm going towards the divine." So Indra said, "You cannot reach the divine before you pay your obeisance to me. I am the Lord of the illumined mind." So what does that mean? That means that the faculty of mind has to be illuminated. For that, we have to go to that particular god. All the different faculties, all the different gods have to be, we can go to them We can pray to them and we can grow them in our being. That's the beauty of our Hindu gods, the pantheon. Each one of it's not about Hindu or Christian or Islam. It's about being able to bifurcate all the different personalities that need to be illuminated in our being before we can actually reach supermind. I hope the question is clear to you now.
Yeah,
Sarita.
actually, there's one more small thought that came to me was when
Yeah.
it is written here, Agni Vaishvanara, who contains in himself all the gods and all the worlds. So if Agni is containing everyone in him, so we can just pray to Agni only then if everyone is anyway contained in him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. See, that's a beauty, again, in our religion, that there is no fixed methodology. Everything will come to us spontaneously as per the need of our Swabhava. At this present moment, what is my Swabhava asking for? If you are in touch with Agni, you will know that particular tilt of your Swabhava at that moment. And if you just listen to your own inner being and you follow it, you will be led to the next stage. Because everything is contained in Agni, what we have to do is we have to keep connected to Agni. And Agni will take us, lead us forward. Again, that beautiful first mantra. Om Agnim Mile Purohitam Yagyase. You make Agni your Purohit and it will lead you towards the next and next and next step of the Yagya of life. Right?
Yeah, thank you. Got it.
My pleasure. And if you want to understand about the different gods, the best book to go through is The Secret of the Veda by Sri Aurobindo. It is difficult.
Yes. I read it once. It was very interesting. Yeah. I think maybe one needs to read it many times.
Yeah. It's a tough book.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we are going to be doing the immortal life principle. Now, before starting this, I wanted to just remind you about one reference I had shown to you, reference number 15 or 16 it was, I think almost 6-8 months back. Because we must be able to understand before we move forward that the lower hemisphere, you remember that the divine has been described in the Vedas as Chatushringa Trayo Asya Pada. So the 4 horns and the 3 feet. The 3 feet are matter, life and mind. And the 4 horns are supermind, Ananda, Chit, and at the highest there is Sat. Now there is a beautiful connection between these 4 and these 3. And that connection, I had made a diagram once, which I want to show to you again before we proceed. The 7 planes of consciousness are also called the waters of life. Now on the top is Sat, or existence or being. And this is the divine counterpart of matter. The lowest here is matter or Anna. And Sat becomes matter. Right? Now we look at the second, Chit or consciousness or tapas. And this is the divine counterpart of our lower nervous and vital energy, what we call prana or life or the vital. Okay? Now we look at the third from top, Ananda or bliss. Now Ananda or bliss is the divine counterpart of our lower emotion. Ananda or bliss becomes the psychic entity. यहाँ पे कुछ गलत लिखा हुआ है. Ananda or bliss becomes the psychic entity, right? And
this is reference 15 you gave us. So we have this sheet with us.
You have the sheet with you?
Yeah, it's reference 15.
Not 51. ये गलती होना, but it's okay, we'll change it. Then there is the middle plane, the most important plane, which is the link between the higher divine, the higher 3 planes, which are always in perfect harmony, and the lower mortal existence, which are hampered harmony due to the resistance of matter. And that plane is Vijnana, or we can call it the truth plane, or we can call it the causal idea, or the supermind, the supramental knowledge. And this is the link between Satchid and Anand with mind, life, and matter. Right? And this Vijnana is connected to the mind. This is a very important connectivity we have to see, because from the supermind, the Agni comes. Now that Agni that comes, that impregnates the inconscient, how does it come down? It comes down by the help of Chit or consciousness or tapas. From there, that vital, the Matarishwan, the life force comes and takes the Agni and brings it down into the inconscient. I needed you to see this before we start reading the immortal life principle. If there are any questions at this point, please ask me. I'm saying that supermind plane, from the supermind plane, Agni is generated. The flames, the sparks are generated. Now the sparks have to be carried down into the inconscient, and then it will slowly become matter in life, etc. But what carries it down? The Chit or consciousness or tapas. From there, the life principle, that vital energy which is immortal, that carries the Agni down into the inconscient, from where it becomes matter.
In the 15th and 16th verse, there was this explanation yesterday that the sun illuminates and allows this Chit Shakti to come down, and then you can take it, the Chit Shakti then enables its natural path to again go back up to truth and joy, or truth and bliss. So is this the reference that you're giving to what you had explained yesterday, the 15th and 16th verse, of how it comes down, of how illumination comes down to bridge the lower three to the higher?
I don't think that was written in the 15th and 16th. It's going to come now. You're saying in the 15th and 16th verses, we just talked about Surya. There was hardly any mention of Agni.
No, what I understood of the 15th and 16th is, see, this bridge is very important, right? To identify or to become connected to it, we at the lower three levels cannot do that. We are not aware, at least what I understood yesterday was that the scout, remember the scout example, that this is always there. It is always present, but we are never connected, or we are not aware to that extent. But there is, in the 15th and 16th verse, the illumination which happens, which enables the awareness that there is a scout.
Yes.
And therefore, the fact, what you're explaining right now, that the bridge was always there. Even in the ignorant stage, the bridge exists, but we are not aware of the bridge. We are not aware of this Shakti, of this soul or the scout, but it is always present in a fragmented manner. But something changes where you become, or the mind and the lower three levels become aware of this. And how is that happening is what you explained, that the 15th and 16th verse, it is the sun which descends in some which way and enables this illumination that you say, oh, actually there is this bridge. And from there on, it is to connect to the bridge, because the bridge or the scout is naturally gravitating towards the truth and towards the bliss. At least that's what yesterday's explanation, or day before, the last 2 days, gave that 15th and 16th verse. And you're sharing this diagram now, which says that to become aware and to leverage the scout, how is that happening? And you just now explained that happens because it descends. This is what you said just now, right?
Yeah, yes. So I'm just telling you today that Agni descends from the supermind with the help of Chit or consciousness or tapas or the immortal life principle, which we are going to talk about. Okay? How does the Agni descend from supermind into inconscient? That is done by the immortal life principle, of which we talked about yesterday or day before, when it said the breath of things is an immortal life. Vayur anilam amritam athedam. Remember? So that Vayu we are talking about, that immortal life principle we are going to be talking about today. Okay?
Right.
Okay. Okay. So let's start reading today and then we'll understand. Life is the condition from which the will and the light emerge. When they say life, they mean that Chit consciousness is the condition, and without that life, we would not be able to bring, the divine would not be able to send will or Agni down into the inconscient. It is said in the Veda that Vayu or Matarishwan, the life principle, is he who brings down Agni from Surya in the high and far off supreme world. So it is by the agency of life or consciousness or Chit or Prana or Matarishwan. Look at this. Look at the richness of language in Sanskrit. So this Prana or Matarishwan or Vayu or life, it is by the agency of this that it provides a suitable soil by which will or Agni is sent down from Surya, from this high and far off supreme world into the inconscient. Right action can emerge only from right knowledge. Even in the Gita, see, this is a beautiful verse in the Gita. Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Dehamashrita Prana Apana Samayukta Panchamyannam Chaturvidham. I, having become the flame of life, sustain the physical body of living creatures, and united with prana and apana, digest the 4 kinds of food. So here the divine is saying that I have become the flame of life, and I sustain the physical body of living creatures when I'm united with prana and apana. So that Vayu, that Matarishwan, carries the Agni from Surya, brings it down into the inconscient. And from there, in the inconscient, the Agni starts working, creating the matter, creating life, creating mind, creating the smaller forms, bigger forms. Human beings have done that so many times. And when it becomes a human being, even in other forms, this prana is still working inside. And it is this prana which is helping to digest the food, etc., etc. Reading further, life calls down the divine will from the truth consciousness into the realm of mind and body to prepare here in life its own manifestation. So the life principle invokes the divine will, invokes Agni, and brings it down. Again, it's the same thing. Brings it down from Surya, from the truth consciousness, into the lower sphere of matter, life, and mind. And this way, the life principle prepares a ready soil for the manifestation of life, so that it may transmute itself with the help of Agni. See, when the life principle, when Matarishwan or Chit consciousness brings Agni down, why does it bring it down? It brings Agni down so that Agni can have the right way to come down into the inconscient. It comes down with the help of the prana, comes down with the help of Vayu or Chit or consciousness. And then inside it starts working. And then it says further, Agni, enjoying and devouring the things of life, generates the maruts, nervous forces of life that become forces of thought. Then what does Agni do? Once it has come down into the inconscient, it gives rise to the maruts. Now what are maruts? These are the febrile, feverish forces of life that become forces of thought. Agni is able to do this by feeding and consuming all that life offers to it. Agni becomes all those pranas, the different pranas. It feeds on life, it consumes whatever experiences it's getting. And it creates the maruts. Maruts are those gods. Creates money, the gods are already there. It brings them down and it increases them. And then let's read it further. Agni, enjoying and devouring the things of life, generates the maruts, nervous forces of life that become forces of thought. They, upheld by Agni, prepare the action of Indra, the luminous mind, who is for our life powers their rishi or finder of the truth and right. So each one of the gods helps each other. And as we said, the gods are all hidden within Agni. All that Agni has to do is bring forth the god according to the stage of evolution in which we are. When we say God, it doesn't have to be the four-armed with the mace in the hand or the crown on his head. We have to understand what does that God stand for. And it is that personality that has to be really worshipped, invoked, nurtured, and which has to grow in our being. We have to grow these personalities in our being. Because what is the aim of our life? Madbhavam. We have to become the same nature as Krishna himself, as Purushottama himself. And he has all these personalities. So each one of these personalities has to be invoked. Again, we go back to that one fabulous mantra, Om Agni Mire. What is that? What does that mantra say? Om Agni Mire, Om Agnim Ire, Purohitam Yagyasya, Devam Ritvijam Hotaram. Now, what does Hotaram mean? Hotaram means that you can call. You know the process of invoking these gods. So, we have to go back to Agni and we have to ask Agni that please invite Indra, or please invite Varuna, or please invite Aryaman. I'm becoming very lazy. I need to become really hardworking. Please invite Aryaman. And then with the help of Agni, we can invite Aryaman and change our nature. The whole process is consciously transforming ourselves. And for that, we need these gods. Right? So, they, upheld by Agni, prepare the action of Indra, the luminous mind, who is for our life powers their rishi, or finder of the truth and right. So Maruts, those forces of speed, they are supported from below by Agni. And these forces of speed, Maruts, they prepare the action of Indra. Indra, the god of the illumined mind, who our life powers invoke. Our life powers start invoking Indra to help us in finding the truth and the right. Now, it's more about gods today. Indra slays Vritra. Now, who is Vritra? Vritra is one of the negative forces. And Purushottama has said through Krishna in the Gita that all the negative forces he has only become. It's not that there is a separate force called Satan who's fighting with the divine forces. Aisa nahi hai. Even the negative forces, the divine is playing the role of the negative forces. And here Sri Aurobindo says, Indra, the lord of the illumined mind, slays Vritra the coverer, dispels the darkness, causes Surya to rise upon our being and go abroad over its whole field with the rays of the truth. So what is Vritra? Vritra is one of the negative forces, one of the principles which hides the truth. It is a coverer. It covers, it envelopes, and thus creates darkness. And when we see that there is darkness in my consciousness, who do we invoke? We invoke Indra, the lord of the illumined mind, the lord of the luminous mind. And we say, Indra, please help us to slay Vritra and dispel this darkness that is happening. And so that once this darkness is dispelled, then Surya or truth or supermind will be able to shed its light on the lower parts of my being. and illuminate my being with his rays of truth. Right? Is everybody clear?
Actually, can I ask you? I think I got a little bit confused over here, when it says, "Who is for our life powers their rishi or finder of the truth and right?" What does that mean by their rishi? Is rishi of the powers of mind?
Agni, enjoying and devouring the things of life,
Yeah.
generates the maruts. You understood up to here?
Yeah. Hanji, hanji.
Who are maruts? They are the nervous forces of life that become the forces of thought.
Yeah.
And maruts, upheld by Agni, prepare the action of Indra.
ठीक है.
Prepare the action of Indra. Who is Indra? The luminous mind.
Yeah.
Who is for our life powers their ऋषि. जो हमारी लाइफ एनर्जी है, हमारा प्राणा है, उसके लिए who is the life power? Who is the rishi?
Okay.
Who is the finder of the truth and right? For the
Right.
time being, it is Indra.
Okay, got it.
And
Yeah.
how do we call Indra? When we need to call Indra, we go to Agni. Because Agni is Hotaram. Agni knows the process of inviting Indra. So even when we are inviting Indra, we go back to the same principle that I am offering. I am offering to you, Agni, this aspiration of inviting Indra, so that when Indra comes, then he will be able to slay Vritra. Vritra is the coverer. He has covered my light. All the light of the sun and the Agni, Vritra is covered. So, O Agni, please invite Indra to slay Vritra, who is the coverer, who has covered this light. So that again, there is illumination of Agni. And then once the covering has been removed, then Surya will be able to send all his light into me.
Yeah.
Right, Renu?
Yeah, thank you.
And Anjali, we are hearing this Vritra for the first time today. Never
Yeah.
spoken about this, and
We
this
haven't
not.
really there are many negative forces, and each one of them have been given names. We had talked earlier, if you don't remember, during Gita, when we were doing the Gita, we talked about Pishacha, Rakshasa, and
Yes, that I remember.
remember? So
Yeah.
Vritra, Pani is there.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah?
Yaad aa gaya.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pishacha and
Yeah,
teen
we
the.
won't go into that just now. Let us
Yeah.
keep
ठीक
the
है.
thread.
Yeah,
Otherwise, we
thanks.
lose the thread.
Okay.
Okay. So Surya is the creator or manifester, Savitri, who manifests in this mortal world, the world or state of immortality, dispels the evil dream of egoism, sin, and suffering, and transforms life into the immortality, the good, the beatitude. So, Savitri is, in the Vedas, another name for Surya. When he plays the role of a creator or manifester. Now, what does Savitri or Surya do? Savitri brings down into this world the state of immortality, destroys the nightmare of egoism, sin, and suffering, and transforms the life principle into immortality, the good, the ananda, or the beatitude. Right? Want me to explain it again? That Savitri in the Vedas is another name for Surya, when he plays the role of a creator. Now, Savitri brings down into the world the state of immortality. How does Savitri do that? How does Surya do that? By destroying the nightmare of sin, egoism, suffering, desire, and transforming the life principle into immortality, into the good, the ananda, or the beatitude. How do we do that? The Vedic gods, I'm reading from the book, the Vedic gods are a parable of human life emerging, mounting, lifting itself towards the Godhead. If we want to reach the Godhead, if we want to reach the Supreme, the Surya, the Supermind, we need the help of these gods. The various gods in the Vedas, Agni, Indra, Varuna, Mitra, Aryaman, Bhaga, Maruts, so many others. They are all personalities of the Supreme Purusha, no doubt. They are instructive narratives of the upward struggle of human life. When we struggle to move upwards, what is that struggle? It has nothing to do with the outer life. It is all to do with our inner life. The struggle is all inside us. And first we have to emerge out of ignorance. And for emerging out of ignorance, we need the help of all these gods. Because they are all personalities of the Divine Being. And they will help us in raising ourselves towards the Supreme Being. In Ilian, Sri Aurobindo writes as a sentence, lifting the Godhead within us to more than a human endeavor. Lifting the Godhead within us into more than a human endeavor. So these Godheads have to be awoken inside us. All these personalities have to be awoken. Mahakali, Mahalakshmi, Mahasaraswati, Maheshwari, all these are personalities. All these are Godheads. Addressed to Surya or Apollo, that only with the help of Surya, which will be able to supplement our individual effort, can one climb out of the clutches of Prakriti. Prakriti has just now enveloped us. And if we want to get out of the clutches of Prakriti, what is Prakriti? Prakriti is Tamas, Rajas and Sattva. And we are in the clutches of Prakriti. But if we want to get out of these clutches, we need the help of these Godheads. With the help of Agni, we call out these Godheads one at a time. And we work on one personality of ours at a time. And slowly and steadily, we rise and establish ourselves in the higher consciousness. Clear?
What is parable?
Parable is a story.
What's a story? Oh, yeah, okay.
The Vedic gods are a parable of human life, are the story of human life emerging, mounting, lifting itself towards the Godhead. Right? Life, body, action, will. These are our first materials. The materials that we are first supplied with for our life on earth. What are those? They are life, body, action, and will. Will is that Sankalp Shakti. Matter supplies us with the body. Right? That we know. That what is matter? Matter supplies us with the body. But it is only a temporary knot of the movement, a dwelling place of the Purusha, in which he presides over the activities generated out of the life principle. So our bodies are made out of matter, this we all know. But the body is only a temporary arrangement. It is a temporary arrangement for the inhabitor or the Agni or the soul, which is a delegate of Purusha, which is a delegate of Surya. And that delegate, for that delegate to dwell in temporarily, the matter gives us a body to live in for some time. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hriddeshe arjuna tishtati. So that Ishvara comes and lives in this body for some time. Purusha presides over without much intervention. Now, Purusha, who becomes the Agni, presides over all the work that is being done by this body, by this life, by this mind. Purusha presides over it. Purusha means the Agni presides over the work but doesn't interfere much. And it presides over the workings that are generated by life or Matarishwan, by prana. Matter, life, mind. So all the work that is generated by life in this matter, by prana in this matter, Purusha presides over it, but does not involve itself much. Once it is thrown aside by the life principle, it is dissolved, ashes are its end. What is thrown aside by the life principle? The body. Once there is no more growth possible, no more possibility of ascension, no more possibility of growing into a higher and higher, into higher and higher levels of consciousness, then the soul decides, well, I'm ready to leave this body, because मैं कुछ काम तो कर ही नहीं रहा हूँ, कुछ काम मेरा हो नहीं रहा है, I am ready to leave. And when the soul is ready to leave, it is, this body is thrown aside by the life principle, and the body dissolves. Ashes are its end. Right? Because the body is dissolved and culminates as ashes. Therefore, the body is not ourselves, but only an outer tool and instrument. Therefore, our true person is not the body. The body is only an outer tool, an outer instrument, which is subservient to whom? To the true person, the Antaratman. That is me, and that is the one which is working. For matter is the principle of obscurity and division. Matter is the principle of obscurity and division, of birth and death, of formation and dissolution. It is the assertion of death. What is matter? Matter asserts death. Immortal man must not identify himself with the body. Since matter, or body in our case, is the agent of darkness and division, of birth and death, of formation and dissolution. This body, this matter, is a reaffirmation of death. An individual who is conscious of his immortality, an individual who is conscious of his immortality must not and does not and should not equate himself with this body, right? With this material sheath. In one of the monumental chapters of the Life Divine, Sri Aurobindo talks of the constitutional ignorance. Once, if you remember, we had done the sevenfold ignorance. This is from the Life Divine. In short, we had done the sevenfold ignorance. So one of the ignorances that Sri Aurobindo talks about is constitutional ignorance. Constitutional ignorance is when it makes us identify to a great extent with our body, of which we are primarily constituted. And because of this exaggerated over-identification, we spend a disproportionate amount of our time and energy, not only time and energy, catering to the needs of this body, the demands of this body, unaware of the who I really am, unaware of the Antaratman, unaware of the soul, unaware of the true person who we truly are. That is called constitutional ignorance. That we spend an unbelievable amount of time in the awareness of this body, forgetting who we truly, really are. Now further, Sri Aurobindo says, and the Upanishad says, the life principle in us survives. What does this mean? Because what we have heard till now is that the body goes and what is left is only the soul. But this Upanishad says very clearly, and Sri Aurobindo explains it also, that the life principle in us survives. It's actually not only the life principle, it is also the mind principle. The life principle or the vital has a post-mortal existence, which means that it does not end here with the dissolution of the body. The mind principle and the life principle both carry the soul with them in the post-mortal travel. It is, I'm reading from the book, it is the immortal breath, or as the phrase really means, immortal breath, the footnote says Anilam Amritam. Anilam means breath, Amritam means immortal. Now, to be able to understand the immortality of this Matarishwan, of this life or prana, or consciousness or chit. I had shown you that diagram. Why I showed you the diagram was that nothing in the lower three, matter, life and mind, can be truly understood till and unless we connect it to the higher four. Because everything in the lower three is actually connected with the higher four. Remember that chapter in the Gita, Urdhva Mula. So what does that say? That this whole world is an upside down Ashwatha tree. The roots are all above. So when we talk of the vital here, matter, life and mind, and we say we are dying. When I die, all three go. But here Sri Aurobindo is saying, and the Isha Upanishad is saying, life is immortal. Where does this life get its immortality from? Because we see that life actually comes from Chit. Chit or consciousness or Matarishwan, the immortal, all these Satchidananda immortal. And that immortality becomes this mortality. That is from where it gets the immortality. I needed you to understand this immortal breath through that diagram. It is the immortal breath, or as the phrase really means, the subtle force of existence, which is superior of the principle of birth and death. What the statement is saying is that the life principle or the vital is immortal and actually is the very force of existence, which is much more than the phenomena of birth and death, which are true only of the physical body. When we look at birth and death, we feel this is the end. But this is not the end. It is only part and parcel of a continuous stream. It's a journey which has been going on for centuries and will go on till eternity. And this body, this life, this mind, it's only a small bubble in that huge ocean of a continuous process of becoming, being and becoming, right? At first sight, it may appear that birth and death are attributes of the life. But it is not really so. Birth and death are processes of matter, processes of the body. To outer appearance, birth and death, they both seem to be linked to the coming and going of life in the body. We feel ki is body mein life आई. When the life came into this body, there was birth, and when life left this body, there was death. In reality, it is not so, because birth and death are the intrinsic processes of matter. Birth and death happens only to this body. Life and mind continue with the soul. The journey of the soul continues with life and the mental principle. The life principle is not formed and dissolved in the formulation and dissolution of the body. If that was so, there could be no continuity of the individual existence, and all would go back at death into the formless. So beautifully explained by Sri Aurobindo. Ki the life principle is there even before the body was formed, and the life principle will remain even after the body is dissolved. If the life principle were dissolved with the body, there would be no continuity of an individual's existence in successive births and deaths, and the life principle would just merge into some formless amorphous state. So it is not that the body is forming life. Life principle, the Matarishwan, is coming down with the soul, and it has entered, impregnated into the inconscient. From there, this growth is taking place, and once the human body is formed, it is with the help of life principle that the human body was formed, in which Agni came. And then the human body dissolved, and Agni and the life principle continued, went into the further journey, and then came back again into another body. Then go back, and then they come back again into another body. Life forms the body. Life is not formed by it. Right? It is the thread upon which the continuity of our successive bodily lives is arranged, precisely because it is itself immortal. So, life principle or Matarishwan itself being immortal is the common underlying denominator. It is the thread which facilitates or is responsible for the continuous identity of an individual in future lives. We don't remember. Maybe today we don't remember our past lives. We don't know what we will be in our future lives. But there are people who have memory of their past lives. How is it possible? It is possible because of the continuity of Matarishwan or the life principle. It is because of the continuity of the Atman, the Antaratman or the soul or Agni.
Anjali,
Yeah.
you know, the way you are explaining this, I'm kind of visualizing ki there is, you know, like a very small fetus, like it's just a inconscient mans hai, it's just a piece of flesh, and then the life has entered into it, and life is what has grown into a proper, into a proper baby.
Life has brought the Agni with it, and life is what creates the matter. Matter does not create life. Life is what is making all this possible.
Yeah.
We have always imagined that matter is most important, and in this hard mass ka sharir, life is growing. But here Sri Aurobindo is explaining, and the Isha Upanishad is saying that life is the immortal principle which brings the immortal Agni with it, and that is what creates, that is what life forms body. It is not formed by it. That's what Sri Aurobindo has said, right? Life forms body. It is not formed by it. It is the thread upon which the continuity of our successive bodily lives is arranged, precisely because it is itself immortal. ठीक है ना? It associates itself with the perishable body and carries forward the mental being, the Purusha, in the Anilam Amritam mind upon his journey. See, we said now that when the body dies, when does the body die? When the soul decides to leave the body. Now, when the soul leaves the body, it actually leaves the body, but it only leaves the body. The life principle, we are talking of the three again, it is leaving the body. But the life principle and the mind principle, both of them are carried forward by the soul. Right? Okay. The life principle links itself with the perishable body, and after death of the body, the life principle carries forward the mental being, the Purusha, in the mental being upon its journey through different worlds until it reaches the next life. We've even spoken about that where the soul goes and what it does after it leaves the physical atmosphere, how it goes into the vital world, what it does in the vital world, then it moves to the mental world, what happens in the mental world, and then it goes to the soul plane. Right? So, this was a little tough passage, but it opened up my mind to many things which were never thought about. We never thought about it, about the life principle. We used to think body gayi, soul chala gaya upar. But the soul goes with the life principle, with the mind principle. and how the immortal life principle actually carries the Agni into the inconscient. All these were revelations. When I read this passage, these were like huge revelations for me. So I know it was a little tough passage.
No, but why do we call it life principle and not just life, or mind principle and not just mind? Are they different?
You can call it just life and mind.
No, because it's specifically written over here, na, life principle and mind principle. So I thought, are they specifying on some particular aspect of it?
It means the divine immortal life. So it has to be explained in that manner, that it's the life principle. It is the Chit consciousness, which is the Matarishwan, which becomes the life principle and then comes with the Agni, and it is there inside our body. And it is that which is actually giving us the force, the energy, the consciousness, the chitta. All that is given by the life principle. This is a very difficult question. Why is it not called only life? Why is it called a principle? Principle is
a mool,
that
I
which
think.
is. Huh?
It's a mool.
Yeah,
but I think it's a fundamental.
Yeah,
It's basically
as
it is it's the what basis of everything to grow upon. It's just not life the way we understand life. That is what I've understood here with the word.
yeah. I mean, this is.
Anjali,
But this
there
is like sorry.
Principle is a fundamental truth or proposition that serves as the foundation for a system of belief or behavior or for a chain of reasoning. So principle is the fundamental truth or proposition. So it is called because it's a fundamental truth, that life. When you say life, as she said very clearly, it would just be life, but it's a fundamental principle. It is the proposition on which the whole truth is hanging. So it's called a principle, life principle.
Yeah, I got it. Thanks.
Okay.
in fact, if you look at it, it is so beautifully explained even in the physics. There's this law of conservation of mass, which talks about matter just changes form. It neither gets created nor dissolved. And this actually applies because there's only energy. And
Yeah.
that energy is life. And somehow we've never been able to, connect it. They talk about mechanics and thermodynamics and fluid systems and all that. But this is exactly what matter in every form undergoes. The only thing is that energy, which is the life force that carries on.
I wasn't with you. I'm sorry. Can you repeat what you said?
I said the law of conservation of mass is a principle in physics. It is used in thermodynamics and fluids and mechanics.
Okay.
Exactly this, which says matter can neither be created nor destroyed. It just changes form. And the only thing that remains is the energy, which is the process of transforming that mass or matter into
Absolutely.
different things,
There
which is
you
so
are.
available in physics.
Just
And we've
said
not
it
been able to relate it, to our own.
so beautifully you explained it through science. Very nice. Thank you so much, Geeta. Beautifully, it's just been the science and spirituality
Yeah.
just been beautifully correlated. Very nice. So, if you think it's a lot for the day, we can stop. Or if you would like to go ahead, we can go ahead.
We would like to hear the same thing again and again in a different way rather than going ahead.
I think rather than go ahead, if we look at the fourth movement, I was just trying to link in the fourth movement, the 15th, 16th verses were on the sun, and the 17th and 18th verses now were on the Agni. And in the 15th and 16th, it requests the sun to marshal its rays completely to enable that lid to be removed so that there is awareness of Agni. And again, in today's description, you talked about how there is that requirement of us to elevate to get this life principle down, all the help from Indra and all the other divine gods, because there is so much of challenges of Maya to break this again. So what I was trying to understand is, why is it that the first prayer is to the sun, and in the 15th and 16th we say you remove this lid and you marshal your rays, And then you come into this Agni and you say, okay, Agni, now give me the help of all the gods. So there seems to be that, look, it goes to the sun first. It enables the sun to break the lid, to marshal the rays to come down. And then the awareness comes that the soul, to aspire for Agni to achieve this goal, there needs to be this support of the gods to elevate itself to self-realize. So why is it the sun first and the Agni later?
We go to the father first and then to the sun.
Right.
It has, if you would have gone to Agni first and the sun later, then we would have had the question, why are we going to the sun first and not the father first? So this is a decision of the Rishi, where he has gone first and where he is going later. But we are going to the sun and we are asking the sun to bring all his rays together and tear that golden lid and let those rays come down. And then we go to Agni and say, now once if those rays are coming, we should also be prepared.
Exactly.
If we are,
That's exactly what I was going to say.
And then to the Agni, we are saying, prepare yourself. And Agni is already prepared. Then the Rishi is saying that how do we do the preparation? We do preparation by going to all those gods who are the different personalities of my own being. And each one of these personalities has to be awoken and beautified and perfected in my being. My being is to be made perfect. And it cannot be made perfect without the help of these big gods, because these gods have to awaken themselves in us.
So that shows that this is because it seems to be that the human will can never be divinized without first the Lord, bestowing mercy in the form of sun's direct rays coming down, breaking the lid, and with all the aspiration, all the prayer, like as if it's something you want more than your life, you're ready to die for it. That's when the gods seem to come down and take you up this path. It's so difficult.
Yes. So
it seems to be that you need every force in the world to help you to ever think of becoming one with the Lord.
So we don't have to wait for the sun to break the golden lid. We have to do the work that we can do at our level. And the work that we have to do at our level is to listen to our Swabhava and one at a time go to Agni, either go to the gods or ask Agni to go to the gods, one god at a time, and perfect one of the facets of my nature which needs a changing. And we go on and on and on. It's a endless journey, but no time can be wasted, because what is more important than this? And yet we are living in a life where there is work to do. If I'm a teacher, there are innumerable responsibilities as a mother, as a wife, as a husband, as a father, as a son, as a householder, as a person doing a job. So does it mean that my life is disconnected from my real growth? No. All these opportunities that I get as a mother, daughter, wife, son, father, husband, whatever, each one of these job profiles gives us innumerable opportunities to actually follow that path.
Absolutely. I think what came out today was that the three realms that we possess, we have a physical body, we have a mental plane, and an emotional being. All three, in any engagement we are doing, we are supposed to bring the divine in. I think that whole concept of always connecting, that is very clear. All I was trying to get across was that this is something that we are being told in the 17th and 18th verse, but there was some reason why the 15th and 16th verse says that the sun has to break a lid for a direct, a complete beam of light to come on to enable this activity. So there seems to be that you keep on doing it, as you rightly said, but there, I was just trying to link this with the 15th and 16th verse, that this in any case is a goal, a path, but there was some reason why the Vedas and the Rishis said that you need the sun to come in a blaze of light, in a complete beam to come and break that lid, to enable the 17th and 18th verse to be the following. I mean,
No, that doesn't mean that you wait for the lid to break. We continuously do the work with Agni. And whenever we are ready, the sun will break the lid. It's a far off prospect. But until then, at least we should do the work that we can do at our level with Agni and the gods. Right?
I just want to add on one thing, that instead of looking at it only from the 15th verse, we should look at it from the beginning of the Isha Upanishad, because the first few verses are talking of the Brahman, the right on top. And then we have come down to Surya, and then we have come down to Agni. So we are not just talking of Surya and Agni out here. We are also, so we are actually looking at it from the top, we are coming down, from the Brahman. And then we coming down to Surya, and then we coming down to Agni. I mean, you can explain it.
Yeah, my only point was the fourth movement. If you summarize, we first used to read the movement, then the verses, then the footnotes, and then the whole explanation. With whatever we've achieved, if you look at the fourth movement, if you have to summarize the fourth movement, what would that be?
No, but why are you looking at only at the fourth movement? It is a part of the...
Listen, this is not important at all. That whether we look at the fourth movement alone or we look at the whole of Isha Upanishad, it is just a discussion which is not so important. What is important, yes, what Sarita is saying is also important. Just as important as these are, the first three verses are so important, that the whole world is for habitation of the divine. So everything we do belongs to the divine. So even when we're drinking a cup of coffee, that belongs to the divine. So we have to be remembering him through everything that we do. Let us not go into how important the fourth and fifth, the fourth movement is, or the first movement. That's not so important.
Absolutely.
Right?
I think it's not, we should not go into the technicality, but go into the bhav. That's what I've got.
Right.
I totally agree. So now
I think the moral of the story is surrender. Keep remembering him. Keep remembering him. That is the moral of the story.
Now, would you like to move? Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like in simpler word, what we did today was like Pranmay Kosh and Manomay Kosh, they move from life to life. And whatever we do in this life, with the help of Agni, will move from life to life. Even in Gita, Bhagwan said, whatever you have done will move with you.
Nothing will be lost.
Yeah.
Nothing that we do or achieve will be lost. Nothing will be lost.
So, Anjali, sorry. Yeah.
No, it's okay, Jyoti, go ahead.
No. I was just saying this Pranamay Kosh and Manomay Kosh, they never get destroyed. Only your matter, the body gets destroyed. So that is why when children are born, they have certain inherent natures, Inherent एक nature होता है, हर बच्चे में होता है, which the child gets from his... probably from the previous birth or whatever you say. Maybe this is the reason of it.
That is the swabhav which is mentioned.
Yes.
So that swabhava is carried forward. And the baggage that we carry, that we have to sublimate. We have to sublimate the baggage. We have to go and actually exhaust that baggage. If you remember, once I told you about heaven and hell. Do you remember where the heaven and hell were? In the vital and the mental worlds. So once the physical body disintegrates, then the vital and the mental baggage is carried by life with the soul, and we have to go to the vital world. Now in the vital world, all the baggage, all the desires, the unfulfilled desires, all that I want, all that has to be exhausted. And that is hell. That is the experience of hell for the vital being which carries all that baggage with it. And it is living hell. It is really, really a difficult time. And when we go into the vital world, the exhaustion, to exhaust all that baggage takes a whole lot of time depending on how much baggage we have accumulated. And once that baggage is dissolved, we have gone through that process of hell, then we move to the mental world with all our mental desires, aims, ambitions that we wanted for ourselves. And then to exhaust all that also takes time. It is less painful than the vital world, but that too is difficult. Vital world is painful because all the vital creatures are there. All those people who had innumerable unfulfilled desires, they are all there without a body. And all those vital beings are trying to exhaust. So the whole atmosphere is hellish. And then after being able to exhaust it or sublimate those desires, we move to the mental world. The mental world is a world of ideas, unfulfilled ideas, conceptions, desires, ambitions, and all those have to be exhausted. Anything that has to be exhausted or sublimated when we have a body is a much easier task. But when we don't have a body, then to exhaust desires is a very tough task.
Difficult, yeah.
And that is why that is called heaven and hell. After we have exhausted the mental ideas, ambitions, etc., then we move to the soul plane, where we are able to relax and rest in the lap of God. We rest and rest and rest and rest. And Kirit uncle used to say, and rest and rest and rest. We rest so much over there, we are exhausted. And then when we are ready again, the soul is ready again to take the next life. It doesn't matter to the soul if he has been, an example Kirit uncle used to give, that even if he was Napoleon in one birth, he may choose to be a cobbler in the next birth. For the soul, it doesn't matter. It is we who want to be born as princes and kings, want to live an opulent life, who want to live a happy life. For the soul, it doesn't matter. The soul wants to live a life, wants a body in which it can make most progress. That's what the soul wants. For the soul, nothing else matters. And so the soul, if it is an evolved soul, it gets a choice and it sees all the lives in front of it and it chooses a difficult path. It doesn't matter for the soul because the soul just wants progress. And then once it has chosen the mother, the life that it will have, we choose. And then and they say that even the soul forms the body that it's going to come into. So that is why it's very important if a pregnant woman is aware of the kind of soul that she's inviting. And she goes on talking to the baby and to the soul that's going to be impregnating it, that I invite you, and there is love in her heart for the soul. But that's very difficult. Very few pregnant women are open to this kind of prenatal education. But those who are aware of it, they are able to have a proper communication with the soul that is actually going to take birth from the womb. And yes, that is the journey. Right?
One more thing.
The more conscious we become now, and if we immortalize this consciousness, immortalizing this consciousness, we will be conscious when we leave the body and then when we choose. So it's very important to work on this and work on our consciousness. And that is the whole, it's beautiful. The next section, will and memory, is a very, very beautiful section. I've thoroughly enjoyed reading and rereading it. Yes, Poonam, sorry, you were saying something.
Yeah. Anjali, I just wanted to ask, is this reflecting sort of Vishishta Advaita where Surya is the whole and Agni is the part?
Agni is the
part, the spark.
Spark, okay.
Yeah, so this is exactly what we are saying, that Surya is the whole.
So is it reflecting Vishishta Advaita like in understanding?
I think so. I think Sri Aurobindo has taken a lot of his bent is towards Vishishta Advaita. His total bent is on Vishishta Advaita.
What is Vishishta Advaita?
I thought the question would come. I would not be able to speak on it.
Yeah, so
scared of these new terms when they come in. So Advaita is that there is only one. But in Vishishta Advaita, and I'm going to tell you very broadly, I have not studied it to be able to talk about it. Vishishta Advaita says that there is one, but there is a, and let me talk about it later. If Poonam can talk about it, she's most welcome. Poonam,
No,
you
no,
were
please. I was just asking you because Sri Aurobindo's philosophy has a bent towards Vishishta Advaita, where
Yes.
we are Ishwar is the whole and we are a part. So I don't know much about it. So I just wanted to know whether Surya is the Sagun Brahman with attributes or Ishwar, and we are just a part or a Jiva.
But Poonam,
So I don't think I would be, yeah.
yeah, Anjali, what does Vishishtata, the literal meaning of Vishishtata means? What does it mean?
So we're going to talk about it some other day when I properly studied it. But it is Advaita with a little bit of change in it, with a little bit of modulation. There's been a modulation of Advaita with a little bit of modulation in it. Okay, but
Special.
let me study it properly and then get back to you. So I think we've done a lot of question answers, unless there are more questions. So one of my teachers has sent a question.
Ma'am, I just wanted to know, like when you talked about the soul moving on and on from the body, so
Yes.
is soul and the life the same? And it is the soul who decides to leave the body, not that death happens and then the soul leaves.
The soul decides to leave the body, and so death happens. And the life principle and the mind principle are carried with the soul to the other worlds. So it's a lot of explanation that it will be needed, and I can do that with you separately. I'll call you up and I'll explain it to you. But we've always talked about matter, life, and mind, right?
Right, ma'am.
Matter is disintegrated. This body goes to ashes, the physical body. But the life principle, the prana, and the mind principle, the mind, the manas, both of them, whatever is left back unexhausted, is carried by the life principle to other worlds, to the vital world where exhaustion takes place, and then to the mental world where more we have to exhaust all the mind, the leftover baggage of the mind has to be exhausted, right? That I've just explained, right?
Clear, ma'am.
Yeah, and you had another question in that second part of the question.
They were basically both were connected.
Okay.
That does mean that soul and life is just same entity, because if both are there in the body and they are coexisting in a way. So that was my part. Like it's
They're
clearer
not
now after you
they're
explained
not
this.
one. Soul is Agni. Thank
Right.
you,
Thank you,
everybody.
Anjali. Thank you
Thank
so
you, everybody.
much.
Let's do a mantra and then let's do a gratitude
एक सेकेंड
Tell her to wait.
with silence, and then we'll end.
Purnamidam
Purnat
Purnat
Purnamudachyate
Purnamudachyate
Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. We'll do a minute of silence, gratitude to the divine.